Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Rustamova, and I have with me Dr. Grija, Catalina Grija, my colleague. And today we're going to be talking about very, very interesting topics that a lot of people are interested, ask questions, but not that much of actual information that coming from MDs. A lot of information is coming from influencers, which I have no problems with that. But let's just see what real MDs think about certain situations. Dr. Grija, back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to talk with you, and because I know definitely we are on the same wavelength, and we're both passionate about going to the root of the problems and fixing stuff, not just controlling things. And we both come from traditional medicine, and both of us have very interesting journeys. Would you
Yes.
like to share?
Let's start with you first.
Okay.
What made you go into that field? You are just a regular MD, you are seeing patients, you take insurance, and then one day you woke up and you decided to become a holistic doctor. What happened?
Yes.
Mhm.
So yes, I was seeing patients in private practice for 20 some years, and I was burnt out. I was
Mhm.
exhausted, and I was frustrated. It was too much of a bureaucracy and too little, um, too too few successes in terms of really fixing the problems for patients. It was my passion. It's always been to for weight management, for metabolic conditions, get rid of diabetes, lose the weight, be healthy. Yeah, so it's been a very interesting journey. After 20 some years of practicing internal medicine, private practice, and very, very busy, I got burnt out. And I was frustrated also. I was working so hard. And it's always been my passion to cure metabolic diseases, to try to get rid of diabetes and high cholesterol, and to help people lose weight. And it was definitely part of it, of course, people's mentality that I need a medication. And that's how we've all been trained, right? We need a medication to lose weight. We need a medication to just control the diabetes. We need medications for everything, or if that doesn't work, surgery. And I remember we were introduced to these supplements, and we started taking them. And my husband has high blood pressure. He's had high blood pressure since the age of 35. And within 2 weeks, his blood pressure dropped so drastically, like 102 systolic blood pressure, that I had to cut on one of his medications completely off. And at the beginning, I didn't realize what was happening because, again, I had never experienced anything like this with any natural product. But then when I realized that it was actually one of the products that was doing this, that opened my eyes to the possibility. And I started, researching and looking into more about natural products. And I discovered functional medicine, and I took the course, and the rest is history. And of course, I love still to help people lose weight, because I know that a healthy weight means health. And once people change in their habits and become healthy, the weight will go down, because our body's smart. We just have to give it the right tools. So yeah, that's my journey. So how about you?
How old were you when you had that revelation?
Wow. So with the supplements, that was 2018, and I took a leap of faith and transitioned to functional medicine in 2020.
Oh, okay. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
So this is only 5 years ago. I was 55. So it's never too late.
So with me, it was much early in my life because thanks to my genes, as I thought, once you have those genes, that's your destiny, and that you're destined to have a problem. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, and mind over matter, once you think that way, it happens. In my 30s, I started experiencing what today we call metabolic syndrome. but I didn't understand.
Mm,
In my 20s, I had PCOS. I was fortunate enough
mm,
to marry early and have kids. So I didn't experience PCOS in a severe form. But I'm talking about the reproductive severe form when you have
mm,
infertility. I was fortunate enough, but unfortunately, I did not have understanding of PCOS and how it transforms and evolves into metabolic syndrome. At that moment, being a doctor, reading about this and understanding from typical medical, point of view was not enough. It wasn't enough. So that's why, and because of that, I had these. First of all, I had major gain weight. Okay. Someone who was 110, 115 pounds all of a sudden started going up. During my pregnancies, I had diabetes. But meanwhile, you finishing your medical school, you doing your residency, you busy, you don't think about it. It's a marathon. You know
mhm.
that. You in the trenches, you have
Yeah.
to be a doctor, you don't cry, you just get up, you do it. So you forget about everything and you just push, 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 push. That type A personality that you have to push, you have to do it. And being in residency, BGYN, it's like a military. It's being in the war zone for 4 years. So that's how it felt. And basically putting your health in the back burner, basically not putting yourself first. You see, that's a lot of mistakes I made in order for me to realize, to get to this realization. Yeah. Yeah, after gaining weight. Also, before that, I was a marathon runner. I used to love very long distances. So now I started developing autoimmunity. The
Mm.
first autoimmunity represented in form of angioedema. They call it idiopathic angioedema, which is you swell up, you itch, you cover in red rashes, big red welts, throughout the whole body. And but you don't know the reason. You do allergy tests, nothing shows that you're allergic to. Traditional allergy tests. At the time, the food sensitivity wasn't the same food sensitivity that we do today. So the answer was like, nothing is wrong with you. And being in New York City, being seen by doctors from Cornell and NYU and Mount Sinai and da 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 da, all these stellar doctors, the answer was idiopathic. That means we have no idea what's going
No
on with
idea.
you. That's what idiopathic means. Okay. Idiopathic angioedema. Meanwhile, it's not just itching and swelling on the skin, which it was autoimmune, as I understood now. It's not only swelling your lips, which is not only unsightly but painful, but it's also swelling your throat. At some point, I had that swelling of the throat that I almost had to be
Mm.
intubated. Okay. So that's how severe it gotten. And I had to be put on medication. So being on medication for a long time, first it was hydroxyzine, which is allergy medication, but makes you drowsy. So imagine being on drowsy medication, going through residency. I have no idea how I did that, but I did it. But then being on that for a long time, it created arrhythmias. I created arrhythmia and they had to take me off. And the only option was that working for me at the time, steroids. So I had to be on prednisone. Now we're on
Oh,
prednisone. Okay. So on top of that uh, problem that I have today, I have now metabolic syndrome, angioedema. I have, you know, all these autoimmunities that we don't understand what is coming from. On top of that, now I'm developing Cushingoid. Okay. Literally covered in acne, the hair all over me, the weight. Became almost 200 pounds. I know it's hard to believe, but
wow. Yeah.
that's what happened to me. And besides that, something happened with my knees. My arthritis turned into osteoarthritis, bone on bone. So basically, I became bedridden in a wheelchair at the age of 38. So I
Wow.
was literally pinned to the wall and say, what are you going to do with this? And today's medicine, being in New York and having all the resources, I couldn't find answers. And this is when I started going into alternative world, searching, checking. And this is when I came across with stem cells. This is what I came across with metabolic disorder from alternative, from holistic standpoint. This is when I started connecting mind and gut, mind and body, how important it is. So this is when it all started falling into places. But again, being a doctor, and also, I teach at Mount Sinai, so I'm a serious doctor. I couldn't even talk about my holistic thing. So I had to hide for some time that I'm doing it.
Wow.
It was embarrassing for me to do that. I had to hide. So, but once in a while, I would just say it with residents, and they were just laughing at me at the time. We're talking 2016, 2015. Here comes
Hmm.
our naturalist. They used to call me naturalist because I would just talk about how to take dandelion leaves and how to good the fasting and how good this and how good that. They were, oh, this is how a naturalist. I was talking about vitamin D at the time. So people didn't take me seriously. And then the more I practice, the more I started noticing that it does make sense and it works. If I pulled myself from that rut where I was with all these natural things without medication, it must be something there. So I started truly believing it myself. And slowly, slowly, I started coming out of the closet, so to speak. And I started giving little advices to my patients. Maybe you should start taking potassium. Maybe you should start taking not potassium, but something that has potassium. Maybe you should start taking magnesium. Maybe you should start doing this. And then they come back to me and go, I feel so much better after taking magnesium. Thank you. So
Yeah.
this is how it's all started little by little. And then patients started coming back to me. My primary care doctor told me that I have to be on cholesterol medication. I know you have answers for me. What do you think? And this is when I started giving them advices. They started getting results. And I started feeling more comfortable in the skin of holistic doctors. So I did not have guts like you have a leap. Okay. My ripening was happening over time. That's what happened to me. But what happened is one thing drastically changed is COVID. Okay. During
Mm,
COVID, patients' awareness
yeah.
with other alternative treatments grew exponentially because
Yeah.
people started looking for, everybody started looking, the whole humanity was looking for alternative treatments, right? Boosting your immune system and so forth. And our colleagues, my colleagues would text me, say, hey, Rustamova, did you see that latest study about vitamin D? What it does? Da, 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 da. Oh, of course, you know?
Yeah.
So and then vitamin D became a part of the protocol that we use for pregnant patients. When patients come in, during COVID, regardless of her levels, we put her on 50,000 units of vitamin D. It became a part of the protocol at Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
This is when I became completely open. Well, I was already open, but I was ridiculed before that.
Hmm.
After
Hmm.
COVID, people were like, whoa, something is there. And they started, my colleagues, my doctors colleagues, they started listening to me, and now whatever Rastamova says, they believe. So I'm an authority now, but it took me good 15 years to get to that point. So that's my story.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. It's definitely amazing to fix yourself, right? And I think for people to doubt that you would do something that's not amazing for yourself, it's not acceptable, right? Because we don't want to harm ourselves. And of course, if we try something different, um, all of these things have been there. It's just that people were not paying attention to them.
Yeah.
And everybody was laughing at grandma's old remedy or things that were natural. And it's true. And now it's like you were avant-garde.
Avant-garde, but still very, I would say, anxious avant-garde and not outgoing in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been very rewarding,
It
right?
is. It is rewarding. It is. It's empowering. It's
Yeah,
empowering. Yes.
absolutely. So many people have these aha moments, and they finally fix their health problems, and they have answers for questions that they have been asking for years in traditional medicine. And your labs are fine, right? You're fine. There's nothing I can
Yeah.
do for you. Yeah, just take a pill. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of metabolic syndrome, the way it's presented by today's medicine, modern medicine, and functional medicine? So, how do we merge them together? What do you think?
Wow, it is such a common problem these days with the obesity pandemia. It's been getting worse and worse, and some people that are not considered obese have metabolic syndrome. But and for some people that don't know, metabolic syndrome includes certain criteria like high blood pressure, like high triglycerides, low good cholesterol, and a certain abdominal circumference for men and women. And it is the basis for insulin resistance. Everybody that has metabolic syndrome has insulin resistance, so they're resistant to insulin, and their sugar levels spike. And it is so much related to inflammation and oxidative stress in our body, which we cannot avoid basically, but we can find out exactly how well our body works against that and empower our body with the right tools. And inflammation is huge, and metabolic syndrome is related to so many problems because one of the keys, hormones that is involved in glucose metabolism and weight management, management is GLP-1, and that is produced in the intestine. And if the intestine doesn't work properly, you will not have the right production of GLP-1 and many other hormones. And nobody's paying attention to that way. And of course, I think GLP-1 is on everybody's lips, because everybody's been trying it for either diabetes or for weight loss, but not to think about it as a hormone that we actually should be producing enough of in the proper conditions. And metabolic syndrome drives so many other diseases, and it should really be, we should have a solution to it. And we do, if we approach it comprehensively, holistically, like we all do. What do you think?
Yes. So first of all, metabolic syndrome, I think it's the, like you said, it's the beginning of inflammation. It's the root of inflammation, or root of metabolic syndrome comes from inflammation. And inflammation is the root of all the diseases. Basically, inflammation creates everything, all the diseases that we have. So I always explain to my patients saying that there's 3 factors that create diseases in our world. It's a nutritional deficiencies, it's the lifestyle deficiency, and it's a deficiency of activating your specific genomics. Okay, so those 3. So nutritional deficiencies, I don't know how much of people you see with deficiencies of vitamins like vitamin D. It's such a common condition today, and it's almost considered normal. When I tell my patients you're deficient in vitamin D, they go, everybody's deficient in vitamin D. So what does that mean? So it became norm. Okay, that's nutrition. The food that we eat, it's not nutrient dense food. So even if you're eating salads, they're not dense in nutrients and microelements like we used to have before, because the soil is depleted. There's so many factors play a role. And then you think you're taking your vitamins, you're supplementing with something. Are they really vitamins that you take? Number one, what the quality of the vitamins? And then you're supplementing it, but you really feeding your body if you're supplementing? You see? So that's also important. So nutrition is important, not only the dosages of vitamins, but the type of the vitamins according to your genetics. Okay. And also, do they activate specific genomic triggering systems, pathways in your body? Okay, that's important. Whether you're taking it as a supplementation, whether you're taking it from the food, it doesn't matter. The purpose of the food is to activate those things, those pathways. Then we're talking lifestyle deficiency. Of course, everybody's trying to move, everybody's running, everybody's going to gym. But it's not only that. People talk about this. Oh, I go to the gym, I run, I do lift weights. Good for you. But also, what is happening with your thinking process? What is happening with your sleep? It's also lifestyle deficiencies. You see, a lot of people now moving away from alcohol, which is great. But they're thinking, if I don't drink, if I don't smoke, I'm a healthy person. My lifestyle is great. Not necessarily. How much time you spend in front of a not television. Okay, you don't watch television, but how much time you spend with the social media? How much time you scroll? How much time you spend on the phone talking to your friends? Even you would think, oh, I have fun talking to friends. No, you're still leaking your energy. How much time do you have when you have complete silence, when you completely in a hermit state, when you collecting your dopamine and holding it? The dopamine deficiency is the one that leading problems today. ADHD, Parkinson's disease, dementia, you name it. Because we constantly hyper-stimulating ourselves and trying to push and pull that dopamine receptors, stimulate the dopamine receptors and pull dopamine into ourselves. So that's lifestyle. How many thoughts you have? Inflammatory thoughts. Inflammatory food is one thing. What about inflammatory thoughts? Thinking, oh, what did she say? What did she do? That creates
Yeah.
cortisol right there.
And the instant and the chronic negative news, all the
Exactly. Watching
time.
TV and all that. Imagine
Yeah.
like you open a TV, you watch, it's just crazy. Or even movies, you watch movies, there's always drama.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because you wouldn't go and watch quiet, normal, peaceful lifestyle. It would be a boring movie for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want that dopamine in your system, overstimulating yourself. So that's your lifestyle deficiency. And then activation, not understanding your genetics, not understanding how you build, and thinking, oh, I was advised, or I saw that on Instagram. Someone said that if you eat this or you take this vitamins, it's good for you. Let me buy that. Let me take it. I'm taking care of myself, but I'm still not feeling energy, but at least I'm taking everything. And this is when the people come to me saying, I'm exercising, I eat right, I'm healthy, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I take vitamins, and I don't have energy. That's because one of those three pillars, or all of them, are misunderstood and missing.
Absolutely. 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 And people do this, fasting, like, oh, I did a 1 day fast or a 3 day fast, and thinking, okay, I'm solving all the problems. But, or I don't eat, I eat only once a day and I'm still not losing weight. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you're not getting all the nutrition that you need. You cannot have enough protein or any vitamin for that matter in one meal a day. And second, if you eat only one meal and that's at night, for sure your sleep, it will not be a good quality sleep. And especially when I hear, oh, I'm lucky if I get 5 hours of sleep. I'm like, this is not about luck. This is not optional. Sleep is mandatory, because that's another inflammatory factor. When you don't sleep well, you're inflamed. When you're inflamed, you cannot lose weight. Period. And the more inflammation, the higher your insulin resistance, the higher the resistance to losing weight. It's a vicious cycle. People just grab information from wherever, and when they say, "Oh, I've tried everything," and they still don't get anywhere, they feel lost and stuck, they come to us. And it would be wonderful if people would come sooner, before something happens or before feeling so, yeah, stuck and lost.
Mhm. Yes, true. That's true. Yes. Yeah, the body's always whispers first in the form of symptoms and discomforts. We tend to just numb it, just not to pay attention to it, and thinking that it's okay. And then it gives you louder symptoms, maybe a louder pain, and you're still ignoring it. And then finally, it slaps you with diagnosis. And unfortunately, in some cases, like you said, it's too late. Yes, you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah. And of course, we made some mistakes, right? We tried to push and pull, because first of all, women, right, tend to try to do everything possible and try to please everybody and try to perform all their duties, and then you crash. But we learn from our mistakes, at least, and we adjust to new ways of life, and it shows. Oh, it shows.
Yes. I'm going to pause now. I'm going to pause because the sun is setting. So, GLP-1, what is this?
It's a wonderful hormone. It's a wonderful hormone that we produce. It's just that it's not measurable. And this is supposed to control our appetite, slow down the digestion, the transit of food through the stomach,
Mm-hmm.
and help us balance that sugar level. And it has receptors everywhere. It protects our brain, it protects our heart, blood vessels, pancreas. And the problem is that it is produced in the intestine, in the gut. And a lot of people, because of poor food choices, because of antibiotics courses, because of maybe antacid medications for years and years, different reasons, they have not enough, they don't have enough GLP-1 production. And when they start gaining weight, they are offered in traditional medicine the GLP-1 mimicker, which is the injectable medication. And this actually, when they did the research on GLP-1 injectables, they did not do any studies as to what happens to our own GLP-1 production when we receive these injections. But the common sense, the usual way things work is when our body is given something, it says, oh, okay, I have enough. I don't need to make any. So it's a negative feedback. And again, we don't know that for sure. It's not proven, but it's interesting that people that are on injectables, if they stop, they gain the weight back and more. And because they lose muscle mass along with fat, they gain this weight on top of less muscle, which is, much worse. And most people on the injectable don't feel great. There are a lot of GI side effects. There are a lot of fatigue, and some people with depression. I've heard of people that had to take days off, like every Monday and Tuesday, they were taking days off of work because they had to have the shot on a weekend, and that was
Mm-hmm.
still not enough to recover. Why would you do that to yourself? There is something natural that you can do to stimulate your own body's production of GLP-1 and increase that 200% and help your body do what it was always intended to do, meaning have your own GLP-1 activate all these receptors everywhere and actually protect your pancreas, protect your brain, improve memory and mood, not make you worse, cardiovascular protection. And then it doesn't have the GI side effects like the chemical mimicker because it's your normal hormone. So sure, you're going to feel full for longer, but it's a good thing, actually. It's normal. So, and all that cravings, the tug of war in the brain, I want this, but I should not have it, but I'll have just a piece. All that goes away when you have the right amount of GLP-1. And I think, there are people that they have stable weight, they can eat okay, and they don't gain weight. They don't have cravings like that, many. So it may have something to do with that. We don't know. Again, no research in that field, but it's interesting. It's interesting.
It is. And you're right. You're absolutely right. I agree with everything you say. And I deal with patients a lot who come in, who are placed on Ozempic or Manjaro, which is more popular today, Manjaro. And they just say, I can't do this. It gives me such a fatigue, even if they don't have nausea, even they just have fatigue almost to the point that they depressed. Literally last week, I had a patient who called me saying, I can't do this anymore. I feel like, yes, I'm losing weight, but I have no life left in me. Another patient, a couple of weeks ago, she called me and said, I want my orgasms back. I have no energy. I don't want to have sex. Libido is out. I want my life back. You see, besides the fact people who actually, we have one patient, like you said, this is the mental component to it. She's still on it. We're trying to take her off. Hopefully one day we're going to. We slowly, gradually bringing it down. But she takes her Manjaro, and then she pukes for 2 days straight. She just vomits,
Wow.
vomits, vomits, vomits. But she agrees to take that risk or side effect because she's losing weight and she's scared to stop it because she's scared to gain it back. So it is obesity or weight, not even obesity, it's just the weight. It is not only a physical component, but it's a mental component. And it's a big, big role in that plays, I think, in that the whole body system between your gut and your brain. We know that we have so much bacteria that live in our body. It's, genetically we outnumbered. If our
Yeah.
genetic pool is 25,000 genes, bacterial pool is what, 2.5 million or so.
Yeah.
So we
Hmm.
outnumbered. So they actually think for us. They make us crave things. So if you have that pathological or like bad bacteria, we call it, in your body in a big huge amounts because you fed it with probiotics, which is food that bacteria loves, it will be asking for more sugar, it will be asking for more processed foods because this is its food and it will be making you go and eat. So it's a
Hmm.
vicious cycle that it's very, very hard to break. And
Yeah.
you're right. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And these peptides, the GLP, it's a hormone, I mean, a glucagon-like peptide, which regulates sugar in the body.
Hmm.
And you're right. We produce it. We produce it in our gut. We produce it in our brain. We produce it in our lungs. We produce it everywhere. It's just what affects that. Well, you have to activate production instead of suppressing it. And you're right, when you're taking anything, whether it's hormones, whether it's peptides, there is a possibility of negative feedback. Totally.
Yeah.
And another very important side effect is muscle loss, which is so important, especially if you're in menopause and postmenopause, when you're 65 and older. Losing muscle mass, it's important. I mean, it's very dangerous. If you're losing your muscle at 65 and
Absolutely.
older, you basically have a no defense mechanism in your body. That insulin resistance that we were talking about, insulin insensitivity, it happens, majority of it happens in your muscle. The muscle becomes that powerful generator of energy and metabolizer of sugar. And if
Yeah.
you don't have that enough, what happens? The muscle is the one that protects your organs, your skeleton. That's why all these skinny old ladies, they're so frail. And they turn. And my grandma, she just turned and she broke her tibia. She broke her bone just from turning. That's how frail
Wow.
she became at the age of 85, 87. You see? So why would you do something that remove the nutrition from your body? Why would you do
Hmm.
that? Again,
Right.
number one, it's became a big trend. Everybody's on it. Okay. Number two, yes, in some cases, you need to use that. And I use that in some cases on some patients where they have, it's just they so not desperate, but they tried everything. They so disappointed in everything and nothing worked for them. And if I put them on something like that with one condition, it's only going to be for a short period of time while I'm putting all the nutrients in your body and we're developing a system in your body. We're not going to be on it for life. We're not going to be on it for more than 6 months. It's only a crutch when you broke your leg. At this moment, I will allow you to have it, but it's okay. But again, it is not for everybody. It's just for specific group of patients.
Hmm.
Majority of patients who on it that come to me, they on it. I when I take them off, I start with the natural GLPs and then gradually take them off. In some cases, within 2 months. In some cases, within 4 months. It depends on the patient. Yeah, it's a very interesting and very delicate topic. A lot of people on it, they don't tell you. A lot of my patients that come just for regular GYN exam, they don't even tell me that they on it until I ask them. And some of them
Hmm.
embarrassed to say it for some reason, maybe
Hmm.
because they know that I'm holistic and so forth. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic today. And there is a connection between GLP production and mitochondria,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm.
So can you tell us more about mitochondria? What do you think of mitochondria? How? How do you see it with your eyes, through your lenses?
Ah, so mitochondria are they're so delicate and they need so much in terms of nutrition. We think that, oh, again, if I don't eat anything few days, not a big deal. Well, that mitochondria needs all these minerals and vitamins and fat and carbs and protein to metabolize and to produce one molecule of energy, one molecule of ATP. And if there is a lot of oxidative stress and a lot of nutritional deficiencies, of course, they're not going to work as well and they're going to be damaged. And that's practically with less mitochondrial functions, support, then it's aging. It's not anymore anti-aging. You can do anything you
Yeah,
want, but if the
yeah,
mitochondria are not healthy, you're going to age really, really fast. And of course, if the cells are bombarded with sugar and are not able to metabolize those very well, they produce a lot of acid in the body, right, in the cells. And those acids have to be metabolized. And that puts more stress on every single cell. And with more inflammation, that cell is not going to have the proper, it's not going to be receptive, right? All these hormones are not going to be able to penetrate, to attach to the proper receptors on the cell. And your cells are not going to respond to anything anymore. And you have all these hormones floating in the blood, but they're not able to perform their functions. And it's a very difficult situation because people come to us and they say, but my blood tests were all perfect. Well, yeah, but there's no really, it's not like a very, very good test for cellular inflammation and for mitochondrial dysfunction, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll get there. There are tests for level of inflammation, like generally speaking, or oxidative stress, but not generally accepted in the traditional medicine and are not done. So people have no idea that those exist, right?
yeah.
But once that metabolic balance is achieved and the mitochondria can use properly all the macronutrients and has all the vitamins, then it's a totally different ballgame. And of course, we're decreasing inflammation and oxidative stress. We're going back to the oxidative stress, which is the source of all evils.
So yeah, mitochondria, it's a very interesting organelle in our system. And I don't know if everyone knows, but mitochondria is actually a germ, it's a bacteria that once upon a time during evolution was engulfed by another bigger cell. And instead of being digested by it, the bigger cell and the mitochondria went into a state called symbiosis, where they together started living together and feeding each other and living happily thereafter. So that's what this is mitochondria is. And you're right, the function of mitochondria is to produce energy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why mitochondria is so delicate is because everything that we have in our system in the cell, all the organelles, are original to the cell. And they have the shell, they have a casting, they have protection. Mitochondria came from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have that protective shell. It's very vulnerable. So all these metabolic wastes that we have during reactions in the cell, the oxidative stress, the acidity, you name it, mitochondria is the first one to be susceptible to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And mitochondria very susceptible to the sugar as well. Like even if eating, think you're healthy, you're taking your Manjaro, your sugar monitoring showing that there's no spikes, but you're eating some carbohydrates, you're still receiving sugar. And that sugar is
Mm-hmm.
attacking your mitochondria and it's silent and you don't know what is happening. And you're slowly, slowly aging. And speaking of mitochondria and aging, neurons. In the neuron, apparently there is 1 million mitochondria in one cell of a neuron. One cell consists of 1 million of mitochondria. And imagine if you live that life and you bombarding these poor things that creating energy, you bombarding it with food and the environmental stresses and all that, you're destroying it. No wonder why we have dementia, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson. It's all coming from mitochondria. You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a very important organelle that we underestimate.
Absolutely. Because nobody looks at cellular health, right, in traditional medicine. But it's very interesting because they recently did a study where they followed over 2 million people over 8 years, between 40 and I think 69, where they found that people with metabolic syndrome that we touched upon earlier have a 24% higher risk of early onset dementia, meaning before the age of 65. It wasn't a study for causation, but the correlation was huge. And it
And the
totally
reason,
makes
yes.
sense. Yeah.
And the
And the
reason
reason,
behind that is oxidative stress due to metabolic syndrome, due to
yeah,
metabolic disorders.
yeah, absolutely. So, the prevention of dementia starts early on, like with everything. People
Everything.
think that I have to wait for a disease to occur in order to treat that disease. No, we have to prevent this disease. We have to take all the steps necessary to keep this body healthy because we only have one and we have one life. I think people lose track of time, or they don't think really that time is priceless. And they think,
Yeah.
oh, I have a long time to live. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start next week. After vacation, after my birthday, after whatever. You
Yeah.
don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And definitely one of those is the duration of your life on this earth. And definitely, I don't take time for granted. I treasure it. And health is definitely priceless
Health
because
is priceless and time is priceless. Yes.
yeah, these two things, if people would pay attention just to these two things, I think everybody would be so much happier and healthier and everything would work better.
True. Absolutely true. So let's talk about the testing for metabolic. So for those people who go to their doctors, typically, um, naturally they check for CBC, they check the basic metabolic profile. Sometimes they check thyroid, not the full thyroid, but only TSH part of it. They do check cholesterol. Um, Again, not maybe sometimes not the whole cholesterol, but only LDL, HDL, and total cholesterol, maybe triglycerides. No ratios. Sometimes they do. Hemoglobin A1C. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. But it's not only if they do, it's the interpretation. In my opinion, the way doctors interpret upcoming avalanche of problems. That's the problem. In medical school, we were taught if the range is within this, if it's normal, leave it alone, don't touch it. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yes, in some cases, yes, I'm a trauma surgeon. I was trained in ICUs and surgical ICUs. And when we're dealing with a patient who is in very difficult conditions, when you really have to watch the electrolytes, you don't play with them. You get them within the range and fine, as long as they're alive. But in the real life, when you're a healthy person, those ranges don't work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
for inflammation, we could predict that there is oxidative stress. We could predict that there is inflammation happening. Even if everything is okay, all the parameters okay. The patient is skinny. The patient's saying, yes, I do have fatigue. I have a lot of stress. I don't sleep well, and I have constipation. Pretty much nothing going on, right? Like a normal person. And doctor says, drink a lot of water. I'll see you next year. Everything is okay. Or they say, well, your cholesterol is high. Just eat some, fat-free food and then come back in 6 months. I'm going to check your cholesterol. And your cholesterol continues to be high. I'm going to put you on cholesterol medication.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Right.
So your thoughts on that?
Yeah. When you so again, coming from internal medicine, exactly right. So we were looking at ranges, taking that, like, okay, it's vitamin D, right? It's between 30 and 100. Okay, you're 30, you're good. No, 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 no. They have, we have to think how those ranges were calculated. And this is from the, different ages, different health level people, and different areas. And you cannot use them, like really from, beginning to, like from the minimum to maximum. Everything has to be in the middle, and it has to be age related and condition related. If you have, I see so many people, right, with liver enzyme, they're within normal limits, right? All the transaminase is normal limits. But if it is a 15-year-old with transaminases in the 30s, that is not okay. Or if your liver enzymes are 47 or 50 or something, when the normal range is up to 40, that is not okay. For sure, there is some inflammation of the liver. There is fatty liver. Again, depending on the context, but this has to be investigated. And vitamin D, absolutely. Everybody should, no, nobody should be less than 60, 70, 80. That would be, at least, that's at least 70 to 80. And all the other blood tests, but we interpret things differently, right? And, high platelet count doesn't mean that only, maybe you had an infection, or maybe, well, let's repeat that and see what's happening, because it could be autoimmune. It can be some inflammatory conditioning, can be, if it's not anemia, of course, it can be an infection, or it can be something worse. So it cannot be just, discarded. And so many other blood tests are really, we look at them really in the middle, and again, according to the age, rather than taking the absolute range as, all okay. So definitely different interpretation.
Yeah, and let's go back to vitamin D. It's not only the range. I absolutely agree with you. Between 30 and 100, I always tell my patients, they go, but it's 35, it's 40, it's normal. And I go, would you rather have
Yeah.
40 bucks in your back pocket or 100 bucks in your pocket? How would you,
I like
how much
that.
freedom you had if you had more of the, plus also depends what season we're checking you. If I'm checking you and
Mhm.
you 35, 40, sometimes, let's say in April in New York, we okay. We just came out of the winter time. We're fine. The sun is coming. We're going to be okay. But if you're starting winter in October with 45, that 45 will turn into 20 or maybe even 15 in February.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see, so it all depends. So it's important to understand for patients as well. The patient's education is very, very important. Or the same thing with vitamin B12. When I find
Mhm.
B12 low, unfortunately, sometimes with the insurance patients, I cannot check the whole B panel. I just only check B12, and if B12 is low, so kind of assume that the rest of the Bs are also probably low. And again, low. Look at the range for B12: 200, 1200.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is the
But they
range?
say up to 400, it can be, deficient. So, but okay,
No,
then put it in there, but
exactly,
yeah. So,
exactly.
yeah. And
So
definitely not
then,
to mention thyroid, right? Because that's
oh
even,
yes, the thyroid,
oh,
they check only TSH.
yeah.
Yes. And well, I'll tell you something about my observation, and that's my theory. um Chronic vitamin deficiency causes thyroid problems, especially hypothyroidism, especially autoimmune hypothyroidism. That's my theory, because after observing patients for many years, I
Mhm.
found that that's what happens. They go, oh, I was low 5 years ago, I didn't pay attention. But patients come to me, they say, I check my thyroid, my thyroid is okay, but they give me all symptoms of hypothyroidism. Everything: fatigue, sluggishness, constipation, you name it, weight gain, everything. But thyroid looking good. And then when you look at vitamin D is low. And there's
Mhm.
actually a study that showed correlation between the level of vitamin D and the level of antibodies on the thyroid. The higher the level of
Mm.
antibodies, the lower the level, and vice versa. So one of my methods it's number one. When you come to me, the first thing I look at vitamin D. That's the first thing, because everything is built of vitamin D. Life came to this world through the sun. If we won't have sun for a week, for a month,
Mhm.
for a year, life will disappear. Why? Because life comes from the sun, because of the vitamin. One of the factors is vitamin D. Vitamin D is not just vitamin, it triggers, it activates. We're talking about activation. It activates and regulates 2,500 genes in our body. That's what vitamin D does. Besides just being building material for your hormones, building material for your bones, for your brain, for your nervous system, for your immune system, for your hormonal system, you name it. So vitamin D
Yep.
is number one. And majority of my patients come with deficient vitamin D. Like the lowest I had was 3. 3.
I think
1,
eight,
2,
eight,
3.
8, and it was from a lady from Africa,
Imagine.
living in Africa. So it's genetic, yeah.
Exactly. So yes, it's crazy. So thyroid. Thyroid is one of those very interesting topics. And I think
Yes.
everybody, again, this is my theory, everybody gets at some point a little thyroid dysfunction, but body knows how to fix itself. And especially when we go through perimenopause, this is when thyroid starts showing up. Not necessarily on the blood test, but on the symptom wise. I started noticing a lot of my patients who in perimenopause and menopause really showing all the signs of hyperthyroidism initially. And then after putting them on vitamins and good regimen, it levels itself and it goes away. So what are your thoughts on thyroid?
So I think inflammation has a lot to do with thyroid dysfunction. And I think the looking only at the thyroid, and let's first of all, let's clarify what is done in functional medicine as the panel for thyroid, for evaluating the thyroid function. It's not just TSH, maybe free T4 if they're lucky, but it's free T4, free T3, reverse T3, thyroid binding globulin, antibody panel. Everything is looked at so you can see exactly what's happening. Plus, again, some marker of inflammation. And the more inflammation there is in the body, the more problems with the thyroid function you can have. It's just that they don't manifest the same way depending on where this is happening. And people can have normal levels of TSH and maybe normal levels of free T4, but definitely they're not going to have normal levels of everything. And really, everybody should have 0 antibodies. It's not okay if you have, oh, it's within normal limits. It's like below whatever that is, 8 or something like that, or 5. No, you should have 0 antibodies. And once again, yes, absolutely. Once you fix the inflammation, you figure out why they have all this inflammation, and you address all the deficiencies. I like the micronutrient panel where you see deficiencies of everything, all the vitamins, all the minerals, amino acids, everything. Omega is so important as an anti-inflammatory, and fix their, food plan. I don't like to call it diet, but food plan with nourishment and with the adequate vitamins based on these. And you eliminate the inflammatory foods in their diet, and you fix their gut. They definitely have a much better chance of fixing their thyroid problem as opposed to taking, thyroid medication. And now you have, maybe a thyroid that's leaking, because it's so inflamed. You put the medication in there, and then you expect to be able to measure and to have an accurate measurement of the function of the thyroid based on a blood test. It will not be accurate because it's not possible.
So it's true. Yes, I do the same thing. I do the full panel. I always look at the whole picture. And like I said, even if the whole picture is normal, if vitamin D is low, I still don't trust that normal panel.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if my patient is giving me symptoms, there's something going on. And then I dig deeper. And this is where that cellular health and cellular investigation helps a lot. And targeting cellular health with the supplementation and activation is actually pretty good. It's important. Which,
Yeah.
speaking of that, speaking of activation and inflammation, let's talk about this pathway called NRF2, NRF1, NRF2 pathways. It's a very interesting pathway, which was discovered, that substance was discovered in, I think it's 90s, but of course it's in the body for many years, from the beginning of time. And it basically, it's something that it's a compound in our system that able to go in the cell and fix and repair DNA. Because as we age with oxidative stress, our DNA gets destroyed and gets damaged. And our chromosomes get shorter and shorter. We call them telomeres. And that's how we age. So this NRF2 pathway is all about going back and fixing it back. So if, as long as you have this process when the healers and cleaners go in the room and cleaning the mess, and your rate of the mess, making mess, is slower than them coming in and fixing it, you maintain your longevity and health and youth. Once that ratio shifts, and now you have less of these agents that can come in and heal it, and you making mess, then the aging accelerates. You see?
Makes sense.
So that's my 2 cents on RF2, which is, we're so fortunate to have a supplement for that to activate. It's not really a supplement, but it's an activator of that pathway.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, you're thinking, I have this belief that everything happens for a reason in life. And when I found out about this, I was so intrigued, because obviously for a product to be made by the doctor that discovered the superoxide dismutase, one of the most important antioxidant enzyme, that's amazing. And being natural, and to activate, means to practically leverage power, and activating all these genes that are responsible for, repair, structure repair, and DNA maintenance, and of course fixing methylation and all that. Make sure we have all the nutrients in place again. But decreasing the oxidative stress, it's really a pathway to improve longevity and to keep these cells healthier for as long as possible. And there is no downside to this. I mean, you cannot lose with it. You can only gain. And we've seen so many people that have had fantastic results. I mean, yeah, a lot of testimonials, wonderful testimonials. But recently, one of my patients took, this supplement, just one pill, and she had, oh my God, I had so much energy. I couldn't sleep at night. So it definitely can influence one's health a lot. And it's something that should, be in everybody's supplement, well, activator, but supplements, natural products, list of products to take, definitely.
Yeah, the NRF2, especially with combination with GLP-1s, or with a combination with the
Oh, yeah.
collagen altogether, this is such a beautiful orchestra that actually really activates everything in your body, really stimulates those pinpoints. And, we love getting glutathione, we love getting NAD, but how about your body actually knows how to produce your own NAD, your own glutathione? All you have to do is just stimulate, and these pathways are opened by these supplemental, structures and compounds that we have today. We're so blessed to have them. Yep,
Absolutely. And
we're getting such a great
together,
results.
yeah, and together they suppress all these inflammatory genes. Genes that encode inflammatory proteins. And those, so many people genetically produce more of, without having a trigger of infection, inflammatory process, injury, whatever, when it's normal to produce these proteins. But people produce them at a high level genetically. And when you give them these products to suppress those genes, everybody feels so much better. They have people that were in chronic pain. They say, I don't have any more pain. Where did it go? How is this possible? And this doesn't take a year. This takes, a couple of months. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
To decrease inflammation in the body, it's the key to, again, longevity. That's what we're all about, right? Healthy aging, not anti-aging,
Healthy aging, yeah. But speaking of longevity and healthy aging, one of the systems in our body that ages the fast, and that's our reproductive system. It doesn't matter how much of protandium you take. It doesn't matter how much of GLP you take. Unfortunately, physiology is physiology.
Yeah.
You and I, every woman comes to this world with certain amount of eggs in this world. and we have them in the form of primordial follicles. So as we start menstruating and ovulating, we take that follicle and we, mature it, and then we ovulate. We take the follicle, we mature it, and we ovulate. So every time when we ovulate, that egg is gone. So we don't make eggs. We have what we have. So if we
Mm-hmm.
start doing that from the age of 14, and now it's getting younger, the age of 12, by the age of 35, majority of us deplete that reserve that we have, ovarian reserve, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the physiology. And that is my battle today with humanity, with women in developed countries, which this is my patient population, trying to explain that socially we put our reproductive function on the back burner. You and I, we had to go through immigration, we had to go through medical schools, we had to go through so many things, build a career, you had to go through residency. So, and then you start thinking about getting pregnant, right? And that's became a norm. But fortunately, I come from the country where even if you were in medical school, you get pregnant. If you're 20, 25, if you're 25, you're already old. You have to get pregnant. And you know what? At the time, I thought, oh my God, this is so not, it's not conventional. I mean, it's conventional, but it's not cool, because today is a modern day. I'm a modern woman. That's what I thought. But then like I said, when I got pregnant, looking back and dealing with patients today, and for the past almost 30 years, I realized that that is the way. So number one is physiology. We must remember that we have specific amount, and nobody knows. Looking at the girl, looking at the patient in day 20, I can't tell you how long your reproductive will last. It depends on your genetics. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends how many eggs you brought to this world. You see?
Yeah.
So that is the dilemma of today's society, unfortunately, women's place. And this is something that we have to educate patients a lot. But then, and the reason why I started really promoting and talking about this, educating this, is because once upon a time, I had a patient in her late 30s, 38, 35, who was trying to get pregnant, couldn't get pregnant. She comes to me, I do her blood test. She depleted her ovarian reserve. She had no eggs left. And the only option for her was donor egg. And I remember her sitting and crying in my office saying, how come nobody told me this when I explained the physiology? If I knew that at that time, I would take measures. So that triggered me to start talking and educating patients about reproduction,
Mm-hmm.
women about their reproduction. And yes, a lot of women actually realize, listen, and then next thing you know, they come back pregnant. My office always laughs. Every time when they leave after the annual exam, 2 months later, they come back pregnant, because I tell them, come back pregnant. It's time. But some of them just don't realize and don't hear me, unfortunately. And sometimes they leave my office crying, thinking that it's too harsh, but it's true. Unfortunately, it's true. That's how we build.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my thing about reproduction. Now, there are ways to rejuvenate or support your reproduction. Let's say the girl cannot have a baby right now. She's 27. She's planning to do it at 32. There are ways to keep it healthy and young, right? What would you
Yeah.
recommend?
Well, first of all, I see that so many people have micronutrient deficiencies, right? So having these, it's definitely an impediment, definitely. Then
Absolutely.
hormonal. Again, we're going back to metabolic syndrome and PCOS, polycystic ovarian disease. So many women have that, and again, the more inflammation you have in your body, the more problems you have with everything, and the more hormonal abnormalities. And if they started taking birth control pills maybe earlier on, that can also interfere. And when you fix the thyroid function, the adrenals, when you balance the gut health, when you decrease inflammation in the body and help all these organs work really well, then absolutely your ovaries are going to work much better. But I love the Dutch test, right, that we do in functional medicine, because it tells you the dynamic metabolism of hormones. It's not just one level at one point in time. You see exactly where everything is coming from and where they're going, because you can have a sink, right, that is full with water, but you don't know, is it because the faucet was, leaking all the time, or because the drain is clogged? The same thing with our hormones. And estrogen, again, can be different types of estrogen. How are they metabolized? All of these data that we find out from Dutch tests can help a lot. And especially if, people have, women have family history of malignancy, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, or uterine cancer, that can help a lot to, I think, hopefully prevent this from happening. But definitely, we have to think of the reproductive system as a comprehensive hormonal milieu. And if everything works well, and if all the inflammation and the right micronutrients is controlled and the right micronutrients are given, then you definitely increase your chance. And of course, manage stress and exercise routinely, but not, again, high level, like strenuous exercise, because that can inflame you. There are all these, women that go to the gym and lift heavy weights, deadlift 200 pounds, and then they run for an hour, and they're like, and then they wonder that they're inflamed and nothing's happening. Well, everything in moderation sounds much better to me,
That is so
right?
true. That is so true. And I do get patients who are trying to get pregnant and for us quite some time, and the doctors call it unexplained infertility. So basically, the same diagnosis that I had with idiopathic angioedema, it's basically the same thing, unexplained. And they saying that unexplained infertility is on the rise right now, statistically. But to me, it's actually pretty much explained. I know the explanation. I think I know the explanation. If you really look, like you said, a Dutch test, if you look at the hormones, if you look at the cortisol, if you look at the nutritional deficiencies, if you look all the together, think about us as a mammals, right? And again, go back to our evolution when we used to live in caves. The reason why we're here is because we evolved, and those who did not evolve and adapt, they perished. So genetics that we have today is the evolved genetic to survive. So we had to survive. And how did we survive? During wintertime, we didn't have nutrition. So we were malnourished. Okay. And during that time, we were not supposed to ovulate to conserve the energy. Because if I would get pregnant at that time, I would die. It's a survival mechanism. Plus, if also I'm living in the caves and I'm surrounded by tigers, I won't be able to run away from tiger. I have to preserve myself, so I cannot ovulate at this moment. All the animals live the same, this principle in any mammal animal, including humans. Okay. So today we don't have tigers. We don't have winters, long winters when we don't eat, but we do have nutritional deficiencies due to many other factors. So your body is in nutritional deprivation. Nutritional deprivation. Your body is thinking that you're surrounded by tigers because you're constantly under stress, emotional stress, physical stress, like you said, lifting weights and doing certain things that maybe at that moment not recommended for you. So your body thinks, no, I can't. So you check that patient's blood work. Her ovarian reserve is perfect. His sperm is perfect. They can get pregnant. And they recommended to go for ovarian stimulation, for IUI, for IVF. And all you have to do, feed the body, calm down, bring the cortisol down, and miraculously they're pregnant.
Yeah.
I had a patient who came in recently, goes, vitamin D, that's all I needed? Yeah, that's all you needed.
Yeah. I had a patient like this with, I think she had 3 or 4 vitamin deficiencies and some mineral deficiencies, and literally was trying for like 5 years to get pregnant. Within 4 months, she got pregnant. She was like, really?
Really? Exactly.
Really? Amazing, amazing, amazing. But it's cellular deficiencies. That's the other thing. We're doing cellular micronutrient testing, not just blood levels of,
Yeah, cellular
vitamins that you
testing and
can,
then cellular nourishment
right.
afterwards. That's all.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the body knows how to fix itself. And all you have to
Yeah.
do, push the right buttons, which
Yeah.
is your
Pretty
genes.
smart.
It's very smart. Let's talk about DNA. We were just talking about our DNA, our like evolution, how we evolved as humans. So let's talk about this DNA thing. Why do we test for DNA?
Ah,
Why do we love DNA testing?
I love DNA testing because you do it once in a lifetime and you can design your life around it. Like literally, people don't know what they don't know. Once you know how your body works based on the nutrigenetic testing, then you can modify your environment to fit you like a glove. Before, you didn't know why your vitamin D level was low all the time. Now you know because you're not activating and you're not transporting to the receptor to the cells that vitamin D. You didn't know why you didn't feel good after, maybe going to a party and eating or drinking the wrong things. Now you know because you don't have certain liver enzyme, and so forth and so on. You know exactly how your body works, and you can change your environment. You can avoid, the extra toxins. You can have the proper cofactors. You can avoid the substances that actually interfere even more with the function of those genes that are impaired, the function of the enzymes that are impaired. So you're not putting gas on fire. Like green tea is not good for everybody. Onions are not good for everybody. Some people need a lot of selenium or a lot of magnesium, and it's an eye opener. And when you're spreading that to like sports, to know exactly what type of sport is best for you, to how to avoid injuries. Are you at risk for uh, tendon ruptures? Do you need faster smaller weights, repetitions, or you need like heavier and slower, and so forth and so on? You know exactly why you know you're having a sweet tooth, or you don't feel satiated at the end of a normal so-called meal. Find out what's best for your skin. You find out, why you've had problems dealing with stress, or remember all that trauma from the past and you cannot let go, or you have more addictive personality. I mean, it's enormous and amazing, the information that you can get from this. And I try to explain to everybody that all their children should have this, because you can literally help them design their life. And when they're little, you can influence their behavior. They can understand now why they have to do certain things. It's not because I say so, but it's because of your genes. And then they are free to, do what they're supposed to do, but they know at least what options they have. It's, I think, the next best gift to life that we can
Yeah,
give them.
absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Like you said, you do it once and it's a
Yeah.
roadmap for life. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to do it all the time. And now it's telling you it's a GPS system. You know how to navigate this vehicle throughout this confusing life, because they will have so much information bombarding us. Take
Mm-hmm.
this vitamin, eat this food, don't eat this food, do this, don't do that. What is it good for you? Is it good for you according to your genetics, or is it just something that it's not for you? Like you said, some people need a lot of selenium, some people don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. And the very important thing also, when you go, you check your vitamin levels, for example, vitamin B12 level, your levels are great, and you still have symptoms of metabolic disease, metabolic syndrome, and your doctor says you could feel fine. But what happens? That B12 is circulating in your body, but not going into the cell.
Right.
So the cell is still starving. Levels looking great, but that vehicle that takes that vitamin and brings it inside of the cell, that governed by MTHF and MTHFR and all these genes, it's mutated. Yes, you have high levels, but you don't have high levels of vitamin, but you don't have high levels of energy. You're not feeding your body. Or, for example, cholesterol. Like
Mhm.
you go, your cholesterol is elevated. Doctor puts you on statins. Why? Because you have very high risk of cardiovascular disease. Why? Your grandfather died from cardiovascular accident. Your father died from cardiovascular accident. And now you have elevated cholesterol. You can die from that as well. But according to your genetics, that cardiovascular accident can happen from 3 reasons. Reason number 1, it could be inflammation of endothelium of the blood vessels of the wall. Has nothing to do with cholesterol. Number
Mhm.
2, it could be clotting problems genetically.
Mhm.
You just create clots and you die from it at a young age. And number 3, cholesterol plaques. Don't
Mhm.
you want to know what your grandfather died from? Yes, he died from a heart attack, but what was the reason? And based on that, you will make a decision. The doctor will tell you you have to be on statins, but you're going to sit down, you look at the whole picture, and then you take a step, you take action. Of course, you can talk to your doctor. You're not going to do it by yourself, but at least it's going to be conscious decision in your health, in supporting your youth, supporting your longevity. So simple things or not so simple things like that, it gives you so much information and so much freedom to navigate in life when you do that genetic testing. And it's so easy. All you do is just swab, put it in the box, and send it out.
Or
And then you
five
get
drops of
this,
blood.
oh,
Or
blood,
5 drops of
yes,
blood, right? Yeah. Mhm.
exactly. And
Yeah.
then you get this report, and you sit down with your clinician, doctor, whoever it is, and they give you the whole map and you take it. Another cool stuff that it's always evolving. So then you're going to get more information. If you have one information about that particular gene and you're working on it, we're evolving, we're getting more knowledge. Then you get more information, but the structure is the same. Genetic is the same.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
such a great, great tool for doctors. I love it. It gives me so much information and makes my life so much easier to manage my patients. And I'm sure you have the
Absolutely.
same. Yeah.
Absolutely. And accurate. And people do have aha moments. It's very, very interesting. It's and with mood, right? With mood disorders, you can find out exactly what's happening with certain, like 1, 2, 3 enzymes, and you figured out how to fix the depression without a medication or SSRI or anything. Not to be on medication for life when you can just look at your genetics. Yeah, the amount of information is amazing, and I yeah, I don't understand why it's not um, used in traditional medicine, but oh well. We all learn genetics in medical school, right?
I know it's a whole science, it's a whole section there. Yes, but it will happen one day. I think we're evolving as
Yeah.
well as a medicine, as as a medical industry, we are evolving.
Mm.
Just the
Oh,
fact that we started talking as a mainstream, medical facilities start talking about adding vitamins to certain protocols, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So
yeah.
I
And
think
the
we're moving.
gut-brain axis was a big article in an internal medicine, journal. Okay, we're waking up here. Okay, good,
We're
great.
waking up. Yes,
Yeah.
it's good. So the life is evolving. The future is bright. And I think it's good to be on a leading edge, understanding what is happening and bringing that education, that knowledge to our patients. I think it's honor for us to be in that position right now. I'm very honored and privileged, I think, to serve my patients.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel empowered, and I'm so happy that I was open to it, because definitely I can serve now patients that I could not serve before, and they have amazing results, and they are not upset at me anymore for switching from traditional medicine to functional medicine, because now they understand why when they see their own results. And it's amazing to transform lives. its impact. I think we all have certain core values, right? And one of my 3 core values is impact. So, and health impact, and helping people have a healthier, happier life is the best thing that you can, the greatest satisfaction, I guess. It's an
It was a
amazing
pleasure
feeling.
talking to you. It was a pleasure talking to you. It's amazing to talk to another
Likewise.
MD and understanding that we all on the same path and we on the same page. It is very, very reassuring and empowering, like you said. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we're going to do more of those meetups and bring more knowledge and share with our patients.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Look forward to the next one, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.